Welcome to part 3 of Handling Challenging Behaviors by Building Resiliency. I'm Dr. Wanda Jean Jones, certified trainer for you today, and I'm so glad you're continuing this journey with me. In part 1, we laid the foundation. We explored what challenging behaviors are, where they come from, and what they might be trying to communicate. We unpacked how behaviors are often signals, messages that children send when they're missing the words, the skills, or the safety to say what they really need. In part 2, we focused on resilience. Knowing how you as a teacher-leader takes care of your own well-being is important because you cannot pour from an empty cup. Now, in part 3, we're going deeper. This section focuses on resilience-focused problem-solving, what it looks like in early childhood, why it matters, and most importantly, how we build it. Not just in children, but in ourselves. Because here's the truth. Children who demonstrate resilience are not born with some magical quality. They're taught, they're supported, they're guided by consistent, compassionate adults who help them learn how to bounce back from stress, manage their emotions, and build inner strength. And the same goes for us. We can't teach what we don't practice. So as we talk through strategies for helping children regulate, reset, and rise, we'll also reflect on what helps us stay grounded, especially during tough moments in the classroom. Whether you're a seasoned educator or brand new to early childhood, this part of the course is about equipping you with tools to turn reactive moments into restorative ones. So find a quiet space, get comfortable, and prepare to engage with strategies that are just as much about mindset as they are about method. Let's begin. Before we dive in, let's take a moment to revisit our roadmap, because what we're learning is both layered and practical. This table of contents outlines not just the topics we're exploring, but the growth we're aiming for. First, we'll continue deepening our understanding of challenging behaviors. In part 1, we looked at what these behaviors look like and what might cause them. We reflected on how behavior is communication, and how kids use it to get their needs met. In this section, we'll go a bit further into what those needs might be, how to spot the patterns, and how we can respond with curiosity instead of control. Then, we focused on the heart of this training, resiliency. Resiliency isn't about having a perfect classroom or eliminating every tantrum. It's about helping children recover. It's about teaching them to breathe, to regulate, to try again. And it's also about us, what we do to build our own resilience so we can show up with compassion when things get hard. We'll look at concrete ways to support both student and teacher well-being. And now, we'll wrap with what I think many of you are most eager for, specific strategies in the next section. This is where we get practical. We'll go over evidence-based techniques that help prevent behaviors before they even start, replace unhelpful behaviors with healthier alternatives, and respond in a way that helps decrease disruption without damaging the relationship. These strategies are realistic. You don't have to be a superhero or have a perfect classroom setup. They work in small moments, in real time, with real kids. And they're not about controlling children, they're about coaching them. By the end of this training, you'll not only have tools you can use the very next time you step into the classroom, you'll also have a new lens, a new way of seeing behavior, one that brings more clarity, more confidence, and more connection. Let's get started. Let's spend a few moments focusing on 3 of the most powerful tools we have to build positive relationships with children and prevent challenging behaviors before they even start. Choices, empathy, and praise. These come from the Love and Logic Institute, a trusted resource that many educators and families have used to build stronger, more trusting connections with children. Let's start with choices. Offering children choices isn't about giving up control. It's actually about giving them a controlled sense of control. So many of our children come from environments where they don't have the power to make decisions. They're told what to eat, what to wear, when to speak, where to go. But when we offer small, meaningful choices, like, would you like to start with puzzles or art today? We're sending a subtle but powerful message. I trust you. And that builds independence, confidence, and collaboration. The key here is to only offer choices that are both acceptable to you. If either option isn't okay, don't offer it. For example, saying, you can put on your shoes or stay inside for recess might seem like a choice, but it's actually a setup for frustration. A better choice might be, would you like to put your shoes on by yourself Or would you like some help? It's still within the expectation that shoes are going on, but now the child has a say in how. This builds cooperation and reduces power struggles. Now let's move to empathy. Empathy is one of our greatest tools as caregivers and educators. It softens hearts, builds bridges, and keeps the lines of communication open. When we respond to a child's mistake or misbehavior with empathy rather than anger, we allow their thinking brain to stay engaged. You've probably seen it happen. When a child feels seen and understood, they're far more likely to listen, reflect, and learn. But when we react with harshness, we often trigger a survival response. Their brain shuts down and no learning happens. So instead of, "Why would?" let's talk about something that sounds so simple, but has the power to reduce stress, prevent meltdowns, and create a classroom culture of calm, clear expectations, and consistent warnings. These strategies are foundational parts of behavior prevention, and they come directly from best practices in parent-child interaction therapy, also known as PCIT. Let's start with the left side, clear expectations. There are 9 key guidelines to remember when giving directions or setting expectations. First, we want to be direct. That means we're not passive or asking a question that ends in okay. Instead of saying, "Can you sit down now, okay?" say, "It's time to sit in your chair." That eliminates confusion and gives the child clarity. Next, use positively stated commands. Avoid negatives like "don't run," "stop yelling," or "no climbing." These phrases tell children what not to do, but they don't offer a clear alternative. Flip it around. Say, "Use your walking feet," or use a quiet voice. Children respond better when they know what's expected, not just what's forbidden. Stick to one command at a time. This one's hard for adults. We love to pile on the instructions. Go put your shoes in your cubby, grab your folder, and wash your hands. That's too much for young children. Keep it simple, one step at a time. Be specific. Instead of saying, "Be good," try "keep your hands to yourself while we sit in circle." It's much easier for a child to follow when they know exactly what good means. Make it age-appropriate. Toddlers need short, concrete directions. Preschoolers need a bit more detail, but still benefit from brief, clear statements. Use a polite tone. "Please hand me the red block," but remain neutral. That means no extra emotion, no frustration layered into your voice. If we stay calm, they are more likely to stay calm. Limit explanations in the moment. Save the whys and the teaching moments for later. When a child is dysregulated, extra talking can actually overwhelm their. Let's take a look at visual supports. These are simple tools with powerful impact. A visual support is anything that helps a child see what's expected. For some kids, a picture can communicate more clearly than a spoken instruction. Think about how adults use calendars, lists, or phone alerts. Kids need the same kind of structure, just in a more developmentally appropriate way. Having a consistent schedule helps children feel secure. It creates routine and predictability, which can reduce anxiety and help prevent challenging behaviors before they even start. Children thrive when they know what's coming next. At home or in the classroom, it's helpful to stick to routines, especially for nap times and meals. Try to keep these consistent each day, and then build a balanced schedule around them that includes active play to burn energy, quiet time for rest, independent play to build self-direction, one-on-one time to build connection, and plenty of sleep. That's non-negotiable. Now, if a child can't read, no problem. Use photos, icons, or line drawings to represent each activity. A child doesn't need to read circle time to recognize a picture of a rug or a group of kids sitting. Visuals can also be interactive. For example, kids can remove or flip the picture when the activity is complete. That action reinforces sequencing and independence. And it's not just about what's next on the schedule. Visuals can help within a specific activity too. For example, an art project might have step-by-step photos. First, glue the paper. Next, add glitter. Then, place it in the drying rack. This allows the child to move through tasks without relying on constant adult help. Some kids will need to physically remove each step as it's completed. This could be done with a Velcro strip, flipping pages in a mini photo album, or moving cards from a to-do side to a done side. That visual cue supports independence, reduces confusion, and builds confidence. Visuals also help with bound. Now let's move into replacement skills, one of the most impactful parts of behavior support. Earlier, we talked about how all behavior has a function. Children act out not just to be difficult, but because they're trying to meet a need or communicate something. When a behavior works for them, even if it's not ideal, they're likely to keep doing it. So, instead of just trying to stop the behavior, we have to ask, what can we teach them to do instead? Replacement skills are just that, new behaviors that serve the same function, but in a more appropriate, positive, or safe way. If a child screams every time they want attention, we might teach them to tap your shoulder, raise a hand, or use a visual card that says, "Help," or "Look at me." If a child hits when a toy is taken, we might teach them to say, "Can I have that back?" or use a calm down tool and request adult help. The key is that the replacement behavior has to work. It has to actually get the child what they're seeking. Otherwise, they'll go right back to the original challenging behavior. And like all skills, replacement behaviors don't stick overnight. They need to be modeled, practiced, and reinforced consistently. Coming up, we'll look at specific examples and how you can use play, visuals, and natural moments throughout the day to build these skills. So instead of just saying, "Don't do that," we'll shift to, "Here's what to do instead." Let's take a closer look at two powerful tools for teaching replacement skills: social stories and self-regulation strategies. On the left, we see a simple social story. This one helps a child navigate the feeling of anger. Social stories break down situations into clear, manageable steps and teach appropriate responses in a way that's visual and concrete. In this example, the child learns that it's okay to feel angry, but instead of screaming, they can stop. Take deep breaths and ask for help. These stories are personalized, easy to repeat, and help reinforce new behaviors over time. Now on the right, we shift to teaching self-regulation skills, which are absolutely foundational for resilience and emotional growth. When we normalize self-regulation in the classroom, we're not just solving today's behavior, we're laying the groundwork for a lifetime of emotional intelligence. Some strategies you can model and practice include belly breathing. Help children feel what calm feels like in their bodies. Emotional vocabulary. Use feeling words like frustrated, disappointed, or excited often and help children use them too. Calm down spaces or time away, not as punishment, but as a tool to reset. And most importantly, model these behaviors yourself. When you take a deep breath before responding to chaos, they notice. When you name your own feelings, they learn how to do the same. These tools aren't just interventions, they're invitations. We're giving kids the language, strategies, and permission to handle hard feelings in healthy ways. Let's continue looking at ways to build these skills consistently across settings. Let's talk about another powerful replacement strategy: teaching problem-solving skills. Problem-solving is something we often expect children to just know how to do, but it's actually a skill that must be modeled, practiced, and reinforced consistently over time. One way to get started is with "I wonder" statements. These invite curiosity and reflection without placing blame. For example, instead of saying, "Why did you hit?" you might say, "I wonder what we could do if someone is using the toy we want." It gently shifts the child into thinking mode rather than defensiveness. Another simple method is to weave problem-solving into your everyday routines, during family time or class time. Turn everyday moments into teachable moments. Spilled milk, broken crayon, lost shoe. These are all golden opportunities to help kids pause, think, and try solutions. You can also use books and stories to explore challenges through characters. Ask things like, "What could he have done instead?" Or, "What do you think she's feeling right now?" Kids often feel safer discussing a character's mistakes than their own. And finally, make consequences and choices visual. Draw it out, act it out, or use pictures. Whatever helps the child see that their actions lead to outcomes. Visuals make the abstract concrete and help reinforce that they always have options. By building these habits early, we're giving children the tools to pause, reflect, and try new approaches when things get hard. And that's what resilience is all about. This final section is all about us, the grown-ups in the room. When challenging behavior shows up, the way we respond can either make things better or unintentionally make things harder. Changing our response means getting intentional about how we react. Do we raise our voice or lower it? Do we rush in with consequences or slow down to connect first? Sometimes a small shift like changing our tone, using fewer words, or offering empathy before correction can completely change how a child responds to us. Our calm helps them find theirs. And every time we show self-regulation in action, we're giving them a living example of how to handle tough moments. This doesn't mean we ignore behavior. It means we lead with connection, curiosity, and consistency. Let's look at what changing the response can really look like in everyday moments. Let's talk about responses to behavior. Sometimes we forget just how powerful our reactions can be. The way we respond to a child's behavior can determine whether that behavior disappears or sticks around. Here's the catch. What we think of as a negative response might not feel negative to a child. In fact, if we get loud, frustrated, or reactive, it can sometimes make the behavior worse. Why? Because that response might meet a child's need for attention, power, or control. This is why it's so important to be mindful of our reactions. If we want a behavior to stop, our response has to make that behavior ineffective, not rewarding. And here's something else to remember. Every child is different. What works for one might not work for another. You may need to change your response depending on the child, the moment, and the underlying need. The goal is to make sure that our rewards for positive behavior outweigh the benefits they might get from the challenging one. When we respond calmly and consistently, and we make the positive path more rewarding, we set the stage for long-term behavior change. Now, let's go even deeper into this idea of response. Because when we talk about changing behavior, we're not just talking about the child's behavior. We're also talking about our own. One of the most overlooked but powerful tools in behavior guidance is self-regulation for the adult. If we lose control, how can we expect a child to stay in control? Every time we respond to a behavior, we're either reinforcing that behavior or we're redirecting it. Let's consider a quick example. Imagine a child is yelling to get your attention. If you immediately stop what you're doing and give them your full focus, even if it's to correct them, you've just taught them yelling works. Even though the response was negative, the child still got what they needed. They got your attention. So next time, they'll yell again. Instead, what if we paused, stayed calm, and said something like, "I hear you. All right, now let's take a few minutes to pause and reflect. This is your chance to brainstorm. Whether you're doing this independently or in a group setting, think about this question. What are some specific things that we, as adults, can do to change the way we respond to challenging behaviors in the classroom? Take a second to jot your ideas down or share out loud if you're in a group. There's no wrong answer here. This is a time for open thinking and creative strategies. Here are some examples to get your thoughts flowing. Maybe it's as simple as giving more positive attention or catching kids being good. Maybe it's committing to giving fewer repeat commands, or noticing when a power struggle is beginning and choosing to disengage. Other times, it may be about making a plan. You might create a basket list of behaviors, picking one to focus on, and consistently reinforce a positive alternative. Think about how you handle timeouts. Do you use them calmly? Is the child learning a new way to respond afterward? And don't forget the power of praise, visual supports, safety nets, and helping children reflect once they're calm. Go ahead, brainstorm your ideas. You can write them in your journal, type them into a chat box if you're on Zoom, or share with a partner if you're in person. Once you've gathered some ideas, we'll come back together and talk about what stood out. One of the most powerful things we can do to support a child's long-term development is to share the thinking. Instead of always solving problems for them, we invite children into the process. We ask them questions. We help them see the situation clearly. We guide them in thinking through their options. This kind of practice builds the foundation for strong decision-making skills they'll need later in life when we're not there to guide them. This is where resiliency begins to form. When we help children think through natural consequences and reflect on better choices, we're actually strengthening the complex thinking part of their brain. We're wiring their brains for self-regulation, problem-solving, and responsible decision-making. Using problem-solving techniques consistently, from early childhood and on, helps grow these skills early. One great tool to do this is the flip-it technique, which we'll look at next. It's a simple but powerful strategy. that pulls together everything we've talked about today: empathy, problem solving, emotional regulation, and adult responses. By sharing the thinking, we shift from controlling children's behavior to helping them take ownership of it. And that's where real growth happens. Natural consequences and then sharing the thinking with kids helps to develop resiliency by building that complex thinking part in their brain. The more we help them to build these connections in their brain, the more likely they will use them when they get older. The flip it technique is great for incorporating a lot of the different things we have talked about today. Let's dig deeper into one of the most powerful tools in our behavior toolbox: the flip it strategy. Developed by the Devereux Center for Resilient Children, Flip It is a strength-based, trauma-informed approach to transform challenging behavior into meaningful learning. Research shows it can reduce anxiety, aggression, withdrawal, and more, while increasing initiative, self-regulation, and connection over time. Flip It is built around a simple 4-step process: F, feelings, limits, inquiries, and P, prompts. That makes it easy to remember and especially useful in everyday challenging moments with children aged 2 to 8, though it can be adapted even for toddlers. The first step is to name the child's emotional state. You might say, "I see your face is twisted and your fists are clenched. I wonder if you're feeling angry." This acknowledgement lets the child know you see them, you notice their emotion, and you're willing to step into their world. It helps them label their own feelings, a foundational skill for emotional literacy. Labeling feelings also creates a moment of calm. The emotional brain pauses and the child becomes more open to learning. This is not about fixing them, it's about making a connection through emotional attunement. Once feelings are identified, gently and clearly state the boundary. "I understand you're angry, but we use gentle touches when we feel that way." These consistent limits provide safety and predictability. Kids know where the lines are, and that they aren't alone. You are there, and you care enough to maintain boundaries. This consistency builds trust and helps. When we share the thinking, we invite children to be part of the solution. Instead of solving every problem for them, we teach them how to think through what happened and what they could do differently next time. That's where true growth begins. This kind of problem solving supports resiliency. It helps children make better choices later in life, even when we're not around, because they've had practice thinking for themselves in a safe space. We can grow these skills early by using practical tools and techniques. One great example is the Flip It technique, which stands for feelings, limits, inquiries, and prompts. It helps you walk through a moment of challenging behavior with calm, connection, and problem solving. You can watch a great breakdown of the Flip It method in this short video from the Devereux Center for Resilient Children. Included in this course, sharing the thinking helps kids feel heard, and more importantly, helps them feel capable. And that's one of the greatest gifts we can give. Let's wrap up everything we've explored today. Challenging behaviors are part of childhood, not a savior on your part. They're signals, clues that a child needs help with something they don't yet know how to handle. We have tools to support them and each other through those moments. We started by understanding where these behaviors come from and what they're trying to communicate. Then, we looked at how building resiliency, setting clear expectations, using visuals, and offering choices can prevent some of the challenges before they even start. We also explored replacement skills, how to teach kids what to do instead, and how our own reactions as adults play a powerful role in shaping the environment. Remember, you don't have to be perfect to be effective. You just have to stay committed to connection, consistency, and calm. And finally, when we share the thinking with kids, we give them something bigger than a rule or a routine. We give them the foundation to grow into problem solvers, self-advocates, and thoughtful members of a community. You've got this, and we're all in this together. Here's a powerful truth. Children's behaviors are often shaped more by our responses than by our expectations. When we change how we respond, we change the environment, and that can change the behavior. Think about it. If a child is acting out to gain control, and we respond by engaging in a power struggle, we're unintentionally feeding the cycle. But when we respond calmly, firmly, and with empathy, we send a new message: you are safe, you are seen, and there's a better way. This doesn't mean we ignore unsafe or unhelpful behavior. It means we shift from reacting out of frustration to responding with intention. Sometimes, we increase the value of our attention by giving it freely when children are doing well, praising effort, noticing cooperation, or simply smiling at a child who's playing quietly. Other times, it means reducing the attention we give to behaviors that are attention-seeking in unproductive ways. That can be hard. But small shifts, like catching them being good or praising even a small improvement, can help children realize that positive behavior gets noticed too. We might try saying less and letting our tone speak more, giving clear, direct commands just once, avoiding repeating ourselves again and again, offering empathy first, then the consequence. I know you're upset that playtime is over. It's hard to stop while you're having fun, but now it's time to clean up. And of course, we can't forget timeout when used with purpose, not punishment. A calm break to reset, not a punishment cave. Always use timeout only after aggressive behavior and never as a threat. And most importantly, process with the child after they've calmed down, not during. Sometimes, the most helpful change starts with us, not with the child, but with how we see the child and how we choose to respond. Take a deep breath, because you can do this. Challenging behaviors are a normal part of early childhood. They don't mean you're doing something wrong. They mean you're working with developing humans who are learning to manage big feelings in a big world. And the beautiful thing is, we have tools that really work. By building resiliency, we help children learn to regulate their emotions and bounce back from life's tough moments. And we do that by being intentional, through prevention strategies that reduce the likelihood of problems, through teaching replacement skills that give children better options, and through changing our own responses to help them feel seen and safe. This isn't just behavior management, it's brain development, and your everyday interactions are shaping that growth. You are already doing important work. With what you've learned today, you're even more equipped to do it with confidence, compassion, and clarity. We've got this. This quote by Tom Herner is a powerful reminder of something we sometimes forget. We automatically teach a child who doesn't know how to read. We patiently guide them if they struggle with swimming or math or driving. But when it comes to behavior, our instinct isn't always to teach. It's often to punish. Why is that? The truth is, just like reading or swimming, behavior is a skill. It's learned. And when a child doesn't yet know how to manage big feelings, follow directions, or respond appropriately, it's our job to teach them how. That's what this entire training has been about. Prevention strategies are teaching strategies. They show children what to do instead of just telling them what not to do. And when we make a shift to think of behavior as a teachable moment, we move from frustration to empowerment. So the next time you see a child acting out, pause. Ask yourself, what do they still need to learn? And how can I help them practice? Teaching comes first, and it makes all the difference.